No, you came across the site having seen the interview with Isaac Florentine.
Yeah,
How did
good
you
guy.
how did you find out about that, or were you just looking for content on Isaac?
I don't remember probably or his Facebook or website. Suddenly, for some reason, I saw an interview with Isaac Florentine.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I've also spoken to Scott Adkins, who similarly with sort of you and Michael Dudikoff or you and David Bradley,
Uh-huh.
Isaac and Scott have worked a lot together. So
Yes, I know, I know.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
Isaac is a good friend. You know, um, he did not work in Canon when I worked in Canon. He started after Canon finished, but
yes.
I helped him to start a little bit here in Hollywood, and kind of we are doing the same stuff, and we speak the same language. So, and
Yes,
until he moved to Florida when he was here in Los Angeles, we were very much in contact.
oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, from the when Canon started to then see all the other companies that kind of came out from that, whether it's PM Entertainment, which is probably one of the most sort of direct kind of followers of the kind of Canon model, or whether it's people like New Image and Millennium and some others who have kind of gone on and done some of the later kind of Stallone films and Scott Adkins films and things like that. So yeah, it's interesting to see the Canon legacy still kicking after all these years.
And there is a renewed interest in this company in Canon. There is a lot of renewed interest in Canon, and wherever I go, people ask me so many questions about Canon. You know, because they made so many movies, and they had those movies had some kind of a special flavor to them or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's nowadays it's called the Canon touch, the Canon look.
Yeah, it's sort of, they had that wonderful bravado and energy, and they were sort of, in the best way, and I don't mean this as a negative, but in the best way from everything I've watched about them, and I've watched the BBC documentary about Canon, and I've watched the Mark Hartley documentary, the Electric Boogaloo documentary. They seemed in the best way both showman, but also a salesman, almost like car salesman. They'll do anything to get you the picture out the door, kind of thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's how it was.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Sam. In November, for the last couple of years, we've covered a variety of ninja films on the show. We kind of jokingly call it NINJAVEMBER. So it's a pleasure to have you here to talk ninjas. I was going to ask, after Making One More Chance, which was basically your sort of first American feature with Kirstie Alley, which was a hit on the film festival circuit, it was also something of a family drama. What brought you after that to Canon, and what made them think that you were the very person to complete their ninja trilogy with Revenge of the Ninja and Ninja 3?
I don't know the exact answer to your question, but here's what happened. Things happened. I knew the people, the two principals of Canon Film. I knew them very well, Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus. I started with them years earlier, before they had Canon. I met them here in Hollywood. I was a film student here in Hollywood. It was 1973, 1974, something like this. And they came here to Hollywood. They had a company in Israel called Noah Film, and they came here to Hollywood because they just made good sales of an Israeli movie, and they produced a movie called Lepke with Tony Curtis. It's a kind of a mobster movie, Jewish mobster movie. And Menachem Golan directed, Yoram Globus directed, and I met him, Menachem Golan, and I asked him to work with him, and I started to work with him. This was the beginning. I worked with this company, with those two people, quite a long time as assistant director. You know, I started from the bottom, giving out coffee on the set, but I ended up assistant director in the movies that they produced, Diamonds, and later on I assist directed Boaz Davidson for this company. So I knew them very well. We jumped to 1979, I came back to the United States, and some of the movies were done in Israel. Some of them here, some in the US, some in Israel. I came back here and I went to school to study for a master's degree, graduate school. And while I was going to the school, Loyola Marymount University, I directed this movie, One More Chance, with Kirstie Alley, Johnny LaMatta and Kirstie Alley. And once the movie, kind of at the same time, they had enough money because they produced this movie, Lemon Pepsicle, that made a lot of money. And they had enough to purchase this failing New York distribution company, was called Canon Film. They purchased this company with the library. They moved it immediately to Los Angeles, from New York to Los Angeles. Just about the same time, I completed, with my friend David Womark, the producer, we completed the movie One More Chance, and we were looking for to do with the movie something. Will somebody pick it up for distribution? We still needed some more money to complete the movie. So I contacted Menachem Golan, Yoram Globus, because, as I say, I knew them from years earlier, and they saw it and they liked it. They didn't have to invest a lot of money into it, a little bit money to help us finish the post-production, finish the editing, music, kind of finalize the movie. And they took it for distribution. And it's a small, little tiny movie that was very limited, released in a very limited way. Besides going into festivals, and we were in Cannes Film Festival, we went to Locarno in Switzerland, Chicago Film Festival, and just about that time, and that's here I'm coming to the point that things just happened.
Yeah.
Just about the same time, Menachem Golan directed a movie which was called Enter the Ninja, with Franco Nero and Sho Kosugi. And the whole idea of ninja was introduced to him, and he liked the idea, and they went to the Philippines and they made this movie. And the company, in the beginning, they started with horror pictures. They tried, they figured out that the cheapest way to make movies, genre movies, is horror. But you have to understand horror. Maybe they did not understand horror. It wasn't too successful for them with horror pictures in the beginning. But when they came back with this from the Philippines, with this Enter the Ninja, and edited, and it had a moderate, let's say, much better success in distribution than the horror picture. It was the first movie that that Canon Film, under this new management, enjoyed kind of a success, moderate success. Sho Kosugi was the bad guy. Franco Nero was the protagonist. And so immediately they said, okay, this is our niche, action. And, and they wanted to immediately make a sequel. The sequel was called Revenge of the Ninja. Menachem Golan, which was the head of the company who directed the first movie, he liked Sho Kosugi very much, that he met him during the filming. And he decided to make him the star of the movie.
Right.
He did not want to go out again and direct the movie. He was busy with building the company. And I don't know, for any reasons that unbeknown to me, he didn't want to direct this movie. And he was looking around. He was looking for a director. The offices of the company were pretty small. It was few rooms and at the time, and like a corridor. And basically, to simplify it, I just finished the movie. The movie was playing around, One More Chance, and he saw me in the corridor, and he asked me the question, do you want to direct another movie, action movie? It's called Revenge of the Ninja. So by then, the concept was already in, and the star was already designated, Sho Kosugi. And I said, of course, I would love to. A young director. I just finished one movie. I spent 5 years as an assistant director. But then he told me that there is one problem. It's an action movie. Can you direct an action? Can you direct action? Because, of course, as you mentioned, the other movie was a family drama. And what am I going to say? I'm a young director, ambitious. I want to prove myself. So I said, of course, don't you worry. I will direct action. And that's how I was assigned to direct Revenge of the Ninja. I was introduced to Sho Kosugi, and that's how. This is the answer to your question. That's how it was. The meeting between me and action and ninja in the corridors of Canon Film.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And just some of the things you were saying there kind of reminded me, probably the only other company prior to Canon that have the sort of makeup that Canon have, or certainly produced as many stars, directors, and so on, was probably something like Roger Corman's company. Was Roger Corman mentioned? Were they aware of Corman? Was there any influence from kind of what Corman was doing, both in the Philippines and in the US, on Canon?
Okay, there is much more connection between the brand Canon and Roger Corman that you mentioned. First of all, Menachem Golan, years earlier in the 60s, he came to when he was a young aspired filmmaker. He came to the United States to study film in New York University, I believe.
Yeah.
Or New York City College, I don't know where. And he was studying, and then, at that time, Roger Corman was the big honcho of making low-budget movies in Hollywood. He was the name, Roger Corman. And Menachem Golan kind of learned that he was producing or making a movie in Europe, and he wrote to him. Menachem Golan wrote to Roger Corman as a young filmmaker. He wants to work with him. For some reason, Roger Corman agreed, or I don't know exactly what happened. So Menachem Golan started working for Roger Corman. This was the beginning.
Wow.
I think it was one film, and incidentally, in the same film also, Francis Coppola started. So that's how he knew Roger Corman. Secondly, the other connection, so this is a kind of a nice gossipy connection between the two of them. So they knew each other. I'm sure they kept in touch. They met again and again in the film market in Cannes Film Festival every year. I'm sure they kept in contact. And then when Canon started, when I came to Canon, most of the post-production stuff in Canon came from Roger Corman. New World, I think.
New World he was with at the time. He dropped New World later. But
most of our post-production, most of the people in post-production, in the trailer department, in the editing department, came from Corman. So when I was editing, after Revenge of the Ninja, even earlier, because we were editing One More Chance in the offices of Canon, I heard a lot of stories about Roger Corman because they were the same guys who used to work for him came to work for Canon. Later on, years later, I also met Roger Corman.
Yeah, it's just amazing, though, isn't it, when you think of everyone who came out of Corman's stable, the web that he kind of set in motion sort of spans so many decades and people. It's amazing, and I'm not sure that I was even aware of the connection to the point that you just explained it. So that's, for a movie geek, that's fantastic for me. I love that.
They had, I know that they had connection through the years. They used to talk with him, he talked with them, distribution, I know exactly. But there is one difference. Roger Corman always bragged about the fact that he will never go over $1 million in his budget.
Yeah.
This was the big thing, because he always bragged, and when you read interviews with him, he said he knows how to make profit, not to lose money. And one of the ingredients of his formula, he will never go over $1 million in budget.
Yes.
Therefore, he will never lose money. And of course, Canon later on, from the beginning, they went over $1 million. But, later on, over tens of millions.
Yes.
And he never did. Corman stayed within his group, within his frame that he decided. And that's why he maintained this company for many, many, many years and produced hundreds of movies. Yeah,
he claims that the only movie I think that ever lost him money was the racially charged film he did in the South with William Shatner, The Intruder, I think, is the only one that he did. And he did that for himself, but I think it's the only one. And it's great because obviously there's an awesome Corman documentary out there as well. And the two Mark Hartley ones, he did one on filmmaking in the Philippines, which obviously has some crossover with the Canon stuff. And he obviously did the Canon documentary. So those three documentaries together are just a film lover's dream, I think. But so Revenge of the Ninja was also basically Sho Kosugi's second feature film. Talk about working with him and how involved he was sort of with the overall movie, especially now that he's kind of stepping in as the lead. His martial arts discipline and how you kind of both navigated your way through that film.
So as I say, in the office at some point I was in the Menachem's Golan office. I was introduced to Sho Kosugi. He's the star of the movie, and here's the director, and that's it. They send us off. Go and make a movie.
Yeah.
So here I'll tell you a little bit. I did not have any background in, let's say, martial art movies. Also, as a fan, as a viewer, I never saw a Hong Kong kung fu movie. It used to be at the time we used to call them kung fu movies.
Yes.
And I never saw any of those movies. I did see a lot of samurai movies because I was a fan of Japanese, Akira Kurosawa, Japanese movies, but only samurai movies. I was not aware at all. I mean, I knew that there were kung fu movies, karate movies, but I never saw anyone before. So here I meet Sho Kosugi, and I was frank with him. I told him, and he kind of took it upon himself. Two missions. One, the first mission to tell me to teach me what is a Hong Kong martial art movie. Second, what is a ninja? Because even within the world of martial art movies, nobody knew about ninja movies. They were here and there in a Japanese television show, and later on I learned that sometimes in the Hong Kong movies you will see some ninjas, usually as the bad guys, or some kind of antagonist here and there, but there was never a ninja movie before Enter the Ninja, which this was the main subject. So anyway, Sho took it upon himself, and he recommended few books about the subject of ninjitsu, just to learn what we are talking about, the assassins, assassins of the imperial time in Japan. And he started to show me, to take me and show me what the Hong Kong movies mean, what they are like. Incidentally, in a funny way, he always showed me movies with no translation. So they were in Chinese and no English translation. Either on video, on cassettes, or there is a theater here for Japanese audience, Chinese audience actually. Sho is half Chinese. He's half Japanese, half Chinese. So he took upon himself and he started to show me those kind of, especially the action, not the story on those movies are usually very silly story and storyline. So I started to be fascinated by all the elaborated action ideas and sequences that they do in the Hong Kong, Chinese Hong Kong movies, action movies, and we started to work together. So kind of this was my education. He educated me. Now, since I don't come from martial art, not as a person, I never practiced martial art, and I didn't know martial art movies, I come from a point that I was fascinated by Hollywood type of movies. And for me, action was westerns, gangsters, organized crime, street fighting, French Connection. This was action for me.
Right.
And I was not that fascinated by pure martial art things. So in my brain, I said, okay, and so Sho Kosugi. Sho Kosugi was also clever enough to understand that in the Hollywood environment, he needs to make movies which are not Hong Kong movies, which emphasize the martial art, but rather mix action, so-called Western action, with the martial art action together. And so we had the same goal, the same ideas. And anyway, he was in charge of choreography. He choreographed the fights.
Right.
The martial art fights. When it came to action, we also had a stunt coordinator, Steve Lambert. So all the three of us together, between choreographing martial art fight, regular fight, chases, and other action, gun-involved action, fist fighting action, the three of us together we erected it. We put it together. We made it together. And this was my introduction. And now Sho Kosugi, because this was your action, he's like a master. He had a group of followers on him. He brought with him a group of, I would say, 4 or 5 people who were with him. So his students.
Yeah.
Because he was teaching martial art, has some dojos, whatever, within the world of martial arts. So he was always surrounded by his group. And Steve Lambert, the stunt coordinator, is also a martial artist, so he became part of him. Sho also brought with him one guy who was a weapon maker, because for movies we don't use the real weapon. We use imitations, soft weapon. So this was a group of martial artists, athletes. They used to wake up every day, 5 o'clock in the morning, for a run of I don't know, 5 miles or whatever. I was not part of all this physical activity. And
no, right.
And so the existed this kind of a respect between me as director of the movie, the man who is responsible to oversee the entire storytelling, the plot, the action, the excitement, and between him as the guru, as the guy who was on top of the martial art, in charge of the martial art part of the movie. And here and there was some conflict. We never got into fight or anything, but there was some conflict which arose from my misunderstanding of this whole hierarchy of martial art world, of the world of martial arts. Sometimes I maybe disrespected him in the way that it was supposed to be in front of his students, but I don't know, because I don't come from this world, so I don't know if maybe some incident I didn't turn to him in the right way or whatever. So here and there we had some kind of frictions, but other than this, it was smooth, and really he got me into it, and he agreed with me on the other part of the movie, which is supposed to be regular, so-called regular action. I'm terming regular action versus martial art action. And he wanted to kind of penetrate Hollywood, and he saw, in a way, that we are complementing each other and we are doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, over the decades, if you're a sort of action film fan, seeing the back and forth between the Western and the Eastern versions of action films, and the attempts to, you look at the different times. Jet Li tried to make films in America, or Jackie Chan tried to make films in America before they eventually kind of broke it big over here. Someone like Sho Kosugi was very intelligent to see that the best way to do it is, yes, we'll bring in those Eastern elements, but really it needs to be a film, and I think the revenge aspect, you talk about 70s action films, so many of them are these revenge dramas, whether it's the Death Wish franchise or whatever. To bring that aspect into it, it obviously helps it a great deal to communicate all the different things, because then you can put in whether it's the weapons or the martial arts or whatever throughout, and audiences will accept it easier, I guess, based on
I guess so too.
Yeah.
Because since then I've seen a lot of different martial art movies from different directors, and mostly if the group of creators are all martial artist people, they try to be pure as they can, or to stick to the ideas of the martial art. And you don't do it like this in the martial art, and you do. But then the movie, the final product, has a limited audience.
Right.
In a way, concentrated in the fans of martial art. And what we try to do is open it up for everybody. And so it was the kids of the time. Of course, those movies are for teenagers, boys mainly, not only, but mainly.
What do you mean? I still watch them. No,
we boys, we grew up.
Yeah, no, we're still boys, though. But I get it, Sam.
You are still a teenager, I know, because I meet audience. I meet a lot of people who see the Revenge of the Ninja, American Ninja, and they're still teenagers, believe me.
Teenagers at heart, yes, teenagers at heart, no matter how far we go.
I meet a lot of girls as well, ladies as well, who were. But this was the target audience.
Yes.
And for this target audience, it was a revelation, because within the framework of the type of movies that they used to see, suddenly there was this element, this mystique element of ninja, martial art, weapons from the East, shurikens, nunchucks, all kind of things, and it was so exotic, but within the frame that they are used to,
yes,
that they are familiar with.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that really still going on today in many of the video action films that we get from people. And so we were talking earlier about the fact that you had found the After Movie Diner through an interview with Isaac Florentine. I know that Isaac has done some martial arts himself. Did making any of these movies push you towards doing any of that yourself, or were you just into the movie making and not the martial arts yourself personally?
Yeah, first of all, like Sho Kosugi is a sensei.
Yes.
He's a teacher. Isaac Florentine is a major martial artist. He's not like only doing little martial art. He's himself, he's a teacher, and he already many years in practicing martial art until today. Even nowadays, he's still practicing martial art and he's teaching. So they're heavy. But no, the answer to your question is no, they did not. They were, and I was surrounded by them. Not only, I said also Steve Lambert, later on Tadashi Yamashita, Richard Norton, Mike Stone. I was surrounded by martial artists, famous martial artists.
Yeah.
Aaron Norris, Chuck Norris. But no, they were never successful. I was never attracted to this.
Never inspired you.
I never got into martial art at all. No, whatsoever.
No, not at all. No, okay, that's fine. I too, I love watching it, but I have no interest in doing it. So you follow up Revenge of the Ninja with two films with Canon that have their very own cult following today, and I imagine will have forever, and that is Breakin 2 Electric Boogaloo and Ninja 3 The Domination, both starring Lucinda Dickey, of course. Which came first, and sort of which influenced which film, if they did at all?
Okay, chronologically, just from production point of view, we finished Revenge of the Ninja, and for Canon film, it was a huge success. Why? Because MGM picked it up for distribution. MGM, major company in the 80s,
yeah,
81, 82, 1981, major company, and Canon is a small company, and suddenly this major company agrees to picks up a movie they produce for national distribution, and they gave it like almost like major distribution, but 700 prints, they called it flip-flop, the 700 prints first they played in 700 theaters in the East, and then they moved it to the West. So for Canon, it was a big success, and immediately they wanted a sequel, already making deals with the MGM. So we started on Revenge of the Ninja. For some reason that I'm not that familiar with, or I never asked, Menachem Golan, the head of the company, decided that Sho Kosugi is not going to be the star in the sequel. I really don't know why until today. Sometimes I'm wondering, but maybe it was some personal, something happened between them. I don't know. Or they had some problem selling. Nonetheless, I don't know the answer. So he came to me, and for some, out of the blue, we were talking about making a sequel. The same writer, Jim Silk, was the same writer, Revenge of the Ninja. And he said, let's make it this time with a woman ninja, with an actress heroine instead of a hero.
Yes.
So, okay, fine, no problem at all. For me, that's actually an appealing idea. And we started to kick up ideas about a woman ninja. Now, within the ninja legacy, within the ninja, what I learned from Sho Kosugi and from Japanese movies, from the Chinese movies, there were, or at least the legend is that there were bands of women ninjas. Ninja is a bad. Historically, ninjas are evil. We make them into heroes, but historically they were assassins. They were hired assassins, so they were evil. So that the shoguns used to assassinate their rivals. But so according to the legends, there were bands of ninja women, not in band, and they did the whatever, the evil, the dirty work. But it's a legend, so it's not completely out of the question. But anyway, so decided, yes, we'll do it. The script was written. There was a lot of resistance from Sho Kosugi. He did not like but he was still involved. Menachem Golan decided that he's not the hero, but he's still involved.
Yeah.
He resisted the whole idea, and eventually we came up with this compromise, and I'm calling it compromise, that she's not really, and she's a Western, she's not Eastern, she's not from the East. So this was part of the Menachem Golan request. So instead of really being a ninja, she's possessed by a spirit of a bad ninja, and Sho Kosugi has to come and save the whole situation at the end. And we started casting for this movie while we were still writing the script, and many ladies came in to read, and one of them was Heather Luckler.
Heather Luckler, yeah.
And I liked her the best from all of her, all the, of course, later on. When we chose her agent revealed to us that they really didn't mean for it. She was already up for a television series, one of the ones that she became very famous. Sometimes agents send their actors for readings and for auditions just to practice.
Right.
So they told us she's not available. She's really...
so that must have been T.J. Hooker, I guess. Is that
maybe she had some...
Or is that
she already negotiating with the television series too.
Yeah.
And that's much better work and much more money. So the second one we liked the best after her was Lucinda Dickey. She had she's a dancer.
Yeah.
We needed somebody who will learn, doing all this doing all the martial art. For somebody who's not a martial artist, at least has to be a dancer. So the choreographer can teach. There is not a big gap between dance and martial art,
Yeah.
Kind of similar in the movement. So at least the dancer, that the choreographer can teach her how to move and what to do. So she was a dancer. She had all the features. She had a good look, kind of nice shoulders, a little bit masculine shoulders, and the build. And we liked her the best from reading, etc. And she got the part. And
she hadn't done Breakin yet?
No Breakin yet.
Okay, so those three films come out the same year. That kind of blows your mind in this day and age.
we went to Arizona, to Phoenix, Arizona, and we did the movie. I was busy editing, because editing usually takes twice to 3 times the times of shooting.
Right.
Shooting our 8 weeks, so we're talking about 16 to 24 weeks. So while we are editing, Canon was already involved in making Breakin. Okay. I was not involved in the original Breakin.
Yeah.
I was not involved. I don't know. They needed a girl and 2 guys. The 2 guys came with the script. Shrimp and Adolfo.
Yeah.
Shabadu and Shrimp. They came with the script. Shabadu and Shrimp. And they were looking for a girl. Menachem Golan, we just finished with her. She looked good on the screen. He suggested her, I guess, to the casting, to the director of the first movie, Joel Zilber. And they accepted her. I was not involved at all. I was still busy with editing the movie. They shot this in the breakdance. They had an urgency because it was a fad at the time, breakdancing, and at the same time there were already few other breakdance movies being filmed at the time. So Menachem Golan, Yoram Globus, as you saw in the movie, in the documentary, they always needed to be the first. They rushed it. The movie was filmed like 4 or 5 weeks, very quick editing. We were not finished yet. The movie was already out. So Breakin was out, despite the fact that it was filmed after
Ninja 3. Oh, okay, interesting. I'm not sure that I had remembered that. So that's fascinating, because
so that's what happened. She was introduced to the crowd through Breakin.
Right, because in Ninja 3 there were so many.
And MGM took Breakin for distribution, and MGM took Ninja 3 the Domination for distribution. So just the chronologically they came out in a different order than produced.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting because obviously the first two ninja films, Enter the Ninja and Revenge of the Ninja, are, you know, fairly straight action films. And then obviously Ninja 3, The Domination, has multiple genres going on in it. And I know that obviously that Golem and Globus were trying to monopolize various different fads and interests at the time, whether it was aerobics or horror or ninja movies or whatever, all this different genres. But it, you know, looking back at it now, you would think Breakin came out. You would think Breakin had made her a star, and then you go, "Whoa, let's put her in a ninja movie." The fact that that didn't happen, that it happened the other way around, is kind of fascinating in a wonderful way. So let's talk about blending all those genres together. Where did that come from?
Okay, the blending of the different genre, you can blame only me, not the producers, not the Canon film.
Oh, okay.
And here is the story. I'll explain you what happened. As I told you already briefly, Sho Kosugi rejected the idea of a woman ninja, and he's not the star. Obviously, he was, and he always. And I was working already with Jim Silk, and the Canon group, the Canon people, the head of Canons. By that time, Canon was starting to grow. You know, like really expand very big. They didn't have time. They didn't have patience to talk with me. Menachem Golan was already busy with expanding the company, and he just let me loose. And I was with Jim Silk and Sho Kosugi. This was the group. And Sho Kosugi claimed all the time, a woman ninja, especially Western woman, does not have the power to carry this story. And at the time, you remember Poltergeist, Toby Hooper.
Yeah, we just did an episode on it.
I was very influenced by this movie. And at the time also Flashdance was out.
Right.
Two movies that influenced me a lot. I like both of them a lot. Poltergeist and Flashdance. And somehow, I don't remember exactly through discussion, and suddenly it came, and I suggested to the writer and Sho Kosugi, let's have her possessed. She's not really a ninja, and it was only an idea. I'm not really a writer. And Sho Kosugi accepted the idea. She said, okay, she's not really a ninja. There is a ninja, and somehow she's possessed. Later on, we worked out the story plot that there is a bad ninja. He dies right away in the first scene. This came later on. The other thing that will explain why she can do all the ninja stuff, she's an aerobic teacher.
Yeah.
Dance teacher. So all of those were excuses just to force the ninja persona upon Lucinda Dickey. That's all.
Yeah.
So suddenly we're involved in breakdance because she's teaching breakdance. Suddenly we're involved in Poltergeist because she's possessed. So you need the possessions. And I'm influenced by these two movies really strongly. And somehow we are writing the script with Jim Silk. And those things just evolved. And we were under not tremendous pressure, but anyway, we had a schedule because they wanted a sequel right away.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a year to write a script. Within a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, we put together a script. So as we were talking and working on the script, all those elements just came into it.
Yeah.
Either because of me or because of Jim Silk or because of Sho Kosugi. I don't remember how.
And it sort of does make
martial art, everything, and you know, the spinning head from in another movie, The Exorcist.
Yeah.
I was totally, when I saw Exorcist, that's years earlier, of course.
Yes, of course.
Exorcist was a few years earlier. When I saw Exorcist, I was completely. This was the first horror movie I saw in my life.
Yeah.
Exorcist.
Well, it's
because we didn't grow up with the horror pictures culture. I was still influenced. I was still under the influence of Exorcist.
Yeah. And it does sort of make, as you've explained, like the leaps do actually make kind of a logical sense. If you kind of go, well, how do we make this Western woman a ninja? Well, if she's going to be possessed by one,
and we had to appease Sho Kosugi,
right?
So he will participate.
And you can't just say, well, she's just a normal woman, works in an office, but suddenly she can do backflips and stuff. Like that doesn't make any sense. So no, it does actually make sense, and it actually works. I mean, I think the movie, considering the turnaround time, considering the script. The movie is tons of fun. The pace never stops. It looks really great. It's a crowd pleaser from start to finish. It's got some great action sequences in it, and I know that it might have this sort of slightly jokey cult fandom, but I genuinely like. It's a movie I put in quite a lot to genuinely enjoy. I really do. Yeah, it's fun.
Listen, John, what happened to this movie is beyond understanding. It's not. It happens to here and there. It happens to movies in the history of movie making. Some silly, campy, totally silly movie for some reasons holds and keeps and withstand the test of time and history.
Yes,
the truth is that the movie disappeared a little bit after. It played a little bit. It played it within the year that it came out on VHS cassette, and then it kind of disappeared for, let's say, 10 years, and suddenly it resurrected, and suddenly it came back in big way in the world of cult film. Not a major studio film. Within the world of cult film, it's now a major cult movie. I hear about it. It's being screened all over the world in strange festivals, in cult film festivals.
You need the generation who first either saw it on the big screen or on video to get to a place where they're old enough that they then have the clout or whatever to then sort of put it back out into the world, or the voice or whatever to put it back out into the world. And you see that the same with movies in the 70s becoming big in the 90s and the early 2000s. You see it with the movies of the 80s and 90s becoming big now because the generations have turned.
Like The Room, like the movie The Room.
Right.
So when we made this, for us, it was like The Room. We did not imagine that this movie is for long term, for prosperity. Mine was small little movie, like silly little movie. Ninja.
Oh, I've seen it on the big screen twice in New York in the last 10 years. So it's still playing.
I saw it in some festivals not long ago in the screening, in the big screen.
Anyone listening to this would never let this interview go by without me asking this question. So whose idea was the now legendary V8 juice moment? And were other beverages discussed, or was it always going to be V8 that Lucinda Dickey poured on her chest in Ninja 3?
I truly don't remember exactly. I cannot tell you, exactly. I'm sure from my memories, on the craft service there was always V8 juice, so it was part of the craft service. If you remember at the time, or maybe you don't remember, you're young. At that time, it was advertised strongly in television. There was not like 1 month or 3. It was not like campaign of V8. V8 was usual standard television advertised product all the time, and so it was fashionable. And the idea, it was probably Lucinda. I don't remember. The idea was that she's a health. She works out, right, and she's a health free, whatever. She likes healthy stuff. So the usual stuff, if you approach a scene like this, you have a champagne or a liquor. She pours a liquor on her body. He has to lick the liquor. This is the standard Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I cannot, honestly, I don't remember. And either it was there on the craft service, either it was Lucinda or myself. But some kind of out of discussion, we say, okay, let's make it the same idea like Hollywood. But we are not dealing here with an erotic movie or a love movie with the glamorous, one of those glamorous Hollywood starlets of the 40s and the 50s. So let's make it VHS. And who would know that it become? I'm getting so many emails about this, exactly about this question. So many comments on the internet about it. And well, apparently it made some waves.
Yeah, V8 should send you cases for life. You should just V8 should just be sponsoring all of your movies.
Maybe it was even, when, I know if your listeners know, when people make movies, or at least at the time, I don't know, many companies send product placement. You will place them. It was called product placement. No money, only in the big major movies, studio movies, it includes money. But in the small independent, it does not include money, but they send you So let's say Coca-Cola will supply the entire Coca-Cola supply of the entire production. Hopefully you will use one Coca-Cola. Yeah. So maybe we had tons of VHS. I also don't remember. I remember we had like Nike shirts, things like that, for free.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. But maybe we had tons of V8 juice at the time. It's so many years ago. I don't remember.
I think you and Lucinda owed some residuals from the V8 company for many years of them still being in production. Breakin 2 followed Ninja 3. And it has the infamous semicolon title now of Electric Boogaloo, which has sort of become shorthand in movie nerd circles for all go-to titles for any sequel. If a sequel is mooted, it's Hellraiser 2 Electric Boogaloo, or, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Electric, whatever it is. Those are probably older choices, but you know what I mean. If any sequel is mentioned, people
there is a big article about the man.
Did you have, I know you had said you hadn't had any history necessarily with martial arts, but had you had any history or interest in dance outside of sort of the Flashdance movie? Or again, was this just something that you went into it as a director primarily and collaborated well with the cast and crew you had there?
Yeah, I don't have, I'm not a dancer. I don't have particular, but the way I grew up on a diet of Hollywood film. This was, you know, I saw when I was young, I saw some Italian movies, maybe French movies, but basically Hollywood movies. Mainly Westerns, as I told you, gangster movies, but among them, a lot of musicals. Musicals, you know, I was a kid of the 50s, the 60s. Musicals were a big, big thing, part of Hollywood. And later on, when I was a film student, we watched a lot of musical. And there is the border between musicals and dance movies in Hollywood was kind of blurred. You know, it's not really defined, dance movie versus musical movies. So I grew up with a lot of Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly. You know, that this was part of my visual education. And I liked it. I like to dance. I'm not a dancer, but of course I like to dance as a young teenager, of course. So I was very happy that it fell to my lap. Again, the situation was almost similar. The original director, Joel Silberg, for some reason that I don't know until today, either they had a fallout or he was not assigned to direct this movie. They knew that I know Lucinda Dickey, and you know, of course, Breakin. The listeners know that the Breakin was a big success. The first
big hit, yeah.
It was distributed by MGM. Was tremendous success. They needed a sequel right away, like yesterday.
Yeah,
they wanted a sequel. So something happened with the original director. So they came to me. I just finished the editing of Ninja 3: The Domination. I knew Lucinda. The question again, can you do a musical? Dance movie, it's not really a musical. A dance movie, I said, no problem. This is an action, this is a martial art, this is dance, it's all the same. And it's truly, there is not a big difference between martial art and dance movie. So that's how it came upon. I was delighted. I love musical. I love music. And I was so happy that such an opportunity came to me to direct so-called musical. But it was really a dance movie. No violence, no blood, no explosions, no turning cars, nothing. None of this, but
it's got that plot line about sort of trying to save the youth center that could as easily be an action plot line. You know what I mean? Easily. They've done that as well. So that's what's fantastic about it. And also, I've got to imagine then it was your influence that obviously did the revolving set gag with the dancing on the ceiling, because obviously it's based on the old Hollywood routine from many years
before.
Fred Astaire, yeah. And so that
Royal Wedding. I think the name of the movie was Royal Wedding. He did it first.
Yeah. And you brought that into. Is it Boogaloo Shrimp who does that in the sequel? It is, yeah, right.
It's Shrimp, yeah.
It's Boogaloo Shrimp who does that. Yeah, he does the
Michael Chambers, yeah.
Yeah, which is a fantastic sequence. They did it recently, just last week on Saturday Night Live. They had,
I have to watch it.
Yeah, they had a singer, and I'm going to forget her
in
name
a bus,
now.
Right.
The Woody Harrelson one, the season opener. They had a singer, and they had built, because their stage is so very small, but they had built a stage within a stage that was on the revolving platform, and she danced around it like that. And obviously they had the camera on the revolving mount. And it was funny to see the next day the people who aren't young enough to the people who are too young to necessarily remember the gag or know how the gag is done, be on social media saying, how did they do that? How did that happen? What happened? You're like, oh, okay. They don't know it, but it's still a great gag. It still works fantastically well. I think Kubrick uses it in 2001 as well to do
probably this idea of gimbal not without dancing, of course when he's walking, of course in 2000, of course.
So yeah, it's a fantastic gag. So that's brilliant.
When suddenly over there is a little bit more complicated. He's walking one way and then he walks on the ceiling.
Walks the other way, but it's so well done.
Even more complicated.
And to continue on the theme of ninjas, if you still have time, Sam, I would love to just quickly get into the American Ninja franchise, which you and Michael Dudikoff started together. You did the first two films, also with another great cult actor and action icon, Steve James, as well, who's phenomenal. Big fan of him as well. Talk a little about making those first two American Ninja movies. Obviously, Michael Dudikoff was a relative novice at the time, right? He was a newcomer to film acting and so on. So just talk about kind of getting those two films on their feet and working with Steve and Michael on that.
Okay, so within Canon Film, we had this Ninja 3D Domination, which was not as successful as Revenge of the Ninja. And we finished with Breakdance, Breakin 2, Electric Boogaloo, which was a big success releasing. And again, Menachem Golan approached me. He called me to his office and said, I want to make another Ninja movie. We need to keep the franchise going. But this time, I want to make an American Ninja. Just forget about all the roots in Japan and China, and we are going to do American Ninja. And basically, this was it. This was the instruction, nothing else. Go and make a movie. A writer was introduced to me, Paul DeMilke, and two producers who produced it, Avi Kleinberger and Gideon Amir. And we just started from scratch. There was nothing, there was only one idea, that the Ninja is going this time to be American. And with the writer, Paul DeMilke, he had some martial art background and military background. And there was one more instruction, you are going back to the Philippines, to make it in the Philippines because of financial, there was some money or whatever the reason was. I'm not involved in financials in movies. So, okay, that's what we knew. We knew an American Ninja, we have to go to the Philippines. I always believe that for a Hollywood movie to be successful, it needs the American look. Many American movies which try to make movies in other places, away from the United States, the North America, they fail. Because the audiences around the world are infatuated by the American look, the North American look. So Revenge of the Ninja took place in America, Ninja 3D Domination, Electric Boogaloo, of course, and suddenly in the Philippines. So this was my only thing that I insisted with the writer and the producer, say, how can we keep this idea going to the Philippines but make an American movie? He will be a soldier in an American military base. At the time, in the 80s, there were many American bases in the Philippines. Yeah. Subic Bay was a huge military with tens of thousands of soldiers. So it was easy. American soldier, and then let's develop the plot. And meantime, we're working on the plot. We create this character, this James Deanish character, a kid that doesn't know he's a soldier. He's a lower rank. He's not officer or anything. As simple as can be, a truck driver in the military. He doesn't know that he possesses some special powers, which will later on will come to light when he confronts the evil forces of the plot. Okay, so we are developing this. Now we have to find an American ninja. So we didn't have Sho Kosugi anymore. Sho Kosugi left Canon altogether and started to work with the Transatlantic. What was the name of the company? Moshe Diamond, Transworld Entertainment. He started to work with Moshe Diamond. And he already had the television show. The Master, I think, was the television show.
Right.
He was already involved in a television show.
He does another trilogy for another company, but I didn't know.
Right. Transworld Entertainment.
That's it.
So he was not with us anymore. So we reverted back. We still have our trusted friend, Steve Lambert, who was our stunt coordinator and a martial artist. And we reverted back to Mike Stone, who was with Menachem Golan on the original on Enter the Ninja. And he is also a very known martial artist. He was a champion, the level of Chuck Norris, etc. They're all the same. And he agreed to come and work with us on the subject. And we wanted a fresh face, somebody who will be the American Ninja. And we decided on open call, so-called open call, versus one way in Hollywood in casting is just spreading the word among the agents, and they send actors, either familiar names or non-familiar names, to auditions. Open call means everyone can come, with an agent, without an agent, and we spread the word among martial arts schools here in Los Angeles, and with the agents. And we had like 300, 400 kids came, and there was and for the two parts, for the Joe Armstrong and the Steve James part, for the two part, and people came, young people came. Among them, I saw even kind of recognizable names: Chad McQueen, Mike Norris. I worked with Mike Norris later on, years later. And there are two phases. One phase is, of course, is reading the script to see if they fit what we had in mind, the character that they had in mind. The other phase was working out with Mike Stone, with Steve Lambert, to see if those, either they are martial artists or they are capable of doing the needed martial art. And whoever passed the first phase of the physical test came to see me for reading. So let's say out of the 300, I saw 80. Not all of them were capable or whatever. I was not involved in this part. So people came and reading the usual. Some of them came for Jackson part, some of them came for Armstrong part. And in my mind, we were considering many, but when Michael Dudikoff walked in, he had the look that was in my imagination. He had the look and the stamina and the behavior and the mannerism of what I had in my mind when we were developing the character, this loner. And I was talking with him, and I don't remember, but I remember one question that I asked him that really impressed me. I asked him, Michael, where did you learn to fight? He says, in the streets. I liked it immediately. It's a completely lie. He's a kid from Newport Beach, a surfer.
Right.
He was never in the streets of the
Yeah, I don't imagine Dudikoff
like
grew up on
streets.
the streets. No, yeah.
But it was the right answer. It was definitely the right answer. Then I learned he already made one movie as a lead, Radioactive Dream, with Albert Payun directing, but he was on Bachelor Party. Bachelor Party, with Tom Hanks. Small part. Yeah. So, and he already had a television show, which I didn't know at the time, even Star of the Family. So he was already in television show, and Bachelor Party, and in the Radioactive Dream as a lead. And he, in my mind, he fit. Then we started to read him with some actresses to see if there is a chemistry. I don't think he read with Judy Aronson, but with other actresses, and we taped it. That's usually the process, taping on video.
Yeah.
And I felt that he's the right guy. He's really the right guy. And now I'll tell you a little anecdote. There was this, Menachem Golan had this notion that every actor in this movie, American Ninja, will work for scale. Working for scale means the minimum that the Actors Guild require for actor. At the time, it was like $350 a week, something like this. And he's not going to pay more than scale. Everybody across, so don't bring any famous actors who are asking for more money. Just everybody will be somebody who is willing to work for the scale. When we contacted Michael's agent, he says, no way, he's not coming to work for scale because he already made television and so on and so on. So we want for him double the scale. Menachem Golan was, no, find somebody else. I'm not going to pay double scale, etc. But in my mind, he was the guy. He was American Ninja. From all the readings, the first initial meeting, the few meetings later. By the way, so was Steve James. When Steve James walked in, among all of them, I really had this feeling. He was really the guy. He had this, and he was a martial artist, really. When I spoke with him, he started to explain to me about the animal styles, the different animal styles of the martial art. And but he was unknown at the time, so there was no problem to cast him, to recruit him with the money. I started to put pressure on Menachem Golan. No, I want this Michael Dudikoff, this guy. And somehow he caved eventually, and he said, okay, pay him the double, whatever he wants. Because I showed him we did a special tape, and we showed him the tape, and etc. And eventually he realized that this guy, this actor, has a charisma on the screen. The screen loves him, the camera loves him. And he has the necessary charisma. Anyway, he paid him the money. So he started to work with Michael Dudikoff. Now, Michael Dudikoff does not come from heavy official martial art. He's very athletic, and maybe he had some martial art here and there classes, but not really deep into it. And he started to work with Mike Stone, started to work with Steve Lambert. And we had one more martial artist with us, which was, what's his name, the Australian guy.
Richard Norton?
Richard Norton. Richard Norton was there. And all of them, they started to work with Michael Dudikoff. Richard was actually doubling Michael Dudikoff here and there. They have the same build, the same height, the same build. He was his body double, his fighting double here and there through the movie. And they started to work with him. And apparently Michael was very talented in physics and physical and athletics. And he picked up all the moves. He did most of the fighting in the movie himself, where they were teaching him. Very cooperative, nice actor, nice guys to be with. Now, remember, guys, we were all in the Philippines together in a hotel. When movies made in location, the entire cast and crew are in a hotel together.
Yeah.
Day and night, during the day, in the weekend. So we had to interact with each other more than just on the filming stage, like when it is at home, like let's say in Los Angeles. So, and we are in a faraway country. So it was very nice. So my relationship with him really friendly with Michael Dudikoff, on a friendly level. We're kind of the same age. So he's a little bit younger than me. So was Steve James. We were all very nice, friendly relationship. And we started to shoot this movie. And even when we were making the movie, and those time filming on film, it took at least 48 hours before we saw any results of what we were filming.
Yeah.
So you see them 2 or 3 days later. They go to the lab, they print from the negative, and they send us. But we started to realize that this kid, this actor, Michael Dudikoff, has the charisma, and he's the right guy for the right part, for this particular silent hero, reluctant hero that is not looking for trouble, but the troubles are chasing him. He was just the right he was the right guy. Of course, we didn't know the tremendous how right we were at the time when we were shooting. It just worked. He was on the screen. Everything was working, and then came the relationship between him and Steve on the screen. Never mind outside the screen, but on the screen you could feel this relationship between them, the friendship that is developing on screen. And Michael and Judy were a perfect couple. Also, Judy Aronson and Michael. So all those, the two relationships of the hero, the romantic relationship, the friend, the buddy relationship, we kind of started to realize that it's really working. Of course, you can never predict success of a movie just based on this, but there was a good feeling, good vibe.
Yeah, and I suppose when you say you've got to go to a foreign country to hotel where all of you are away from your friends and family, if there was any issues, if there was any divisiveness, that could have derailed things far more than it would do at home, so it's good it all worked out.
Yeah, I read, you read stories. I read stories about movies that potentially could have been fantastic, but the relationship between the principals were so bad, the two principal actor, director, that it ruined the eventual results of the movie. But no, everything was kind of positive. All the elements, the choreographer, Mike Stone, the stunt coordinator, BJ Davies, the wardrobe lady, she just did the right executive. We had a great art director who built, because we did not get cooperation from the American military at all.
No. Because
the story is a kind of a negative story, people stealing weapons. So the procedure, usually you give it the script to the Pentagon, and if they approve it, they did not approve the script, of course. So everything was created. We worked with the Filipino military, make it look like American. So we had a great art director. All the elements, for some reason, fell together, and here came the movie, which is today a classic. American Ninja is
Well, for 15 years or so in the Philippines, they had been, they had made so many American movies down there, and Corman, like we said earlier, had utilized the military and things. So it was a real industry down there. It's sort of that documentary about it is fascinating.
I have to see this. Also, the same director. I'll watch for this film.
Yeah.
Listen, we came on the hill right after Coppola.
Did Apocalypse Now down there. Yeah.
They just finished Apocalypse Now, and we came right after this. We had the same crew.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Same Filipino crew.
Yeah.
Excellent trained. Apocalypse, they shot for, 5 months, 6 months. So the crew
they shot for years on that thing.
Yeah, so this crew who worked with major American studio film fell, they immediately, their next movie was American Ninja. So we had an excellent crew, Filipino crew.
And it's interesting as you look at your career, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but collaboration seems to be one of the major themes I'm getting from talking to you, whether it's collaboration with your cast, whether it's collaboration with your crew, whether it's learning these things, whether it's the dance or martial arts or how to film drama or how to film the collaborative element seems to be something you come back to time and time again. Is that something that you were always looking for, or were always nurturing, or is that just something that was a wonderful byproduct of making films?
No, listen, it's a point of view. There are many different directors, of course, many different type of filmmakers. Malik, I don't know how he works. But some movies are very personal, individual movies. Some directors are also cinematographers. They shoot the movie. Kubrick, he's the cinematographer and he's the director. But so this is a point of view, a philosophy of directing movies. I see myself as a storyteller. My job, coming to the business of movie making, is to tell stories through visual elements. Now, this is not a painter. A painter can sit in his little studio with the paints and the little brushes and paint whatever he wants. He doesn't need anybody. He just needs a canvas and paintbrush brushes. That's all. And a writer who writes a book doesn't need anyone, maybe a little bit research, and she sits in a coffee shop and she writes a bestseller of all time.
Yeah.
So this is it. Movie, theater, opera, but definitely movie is not a one-man operation unless it's a very small individual little movie. So it's not something that one man can do. The director, especially when you come to action movies or science fiction, you need a lot of talent. It's more the director on a set of this kind of movies are more like a conductor who gets a script, the manuscript, the concerto, and he needs the players, the violinist and the pianist, to perform this to his interpretation of the music, of Mozart music. So the same thing, I'm a director, I don't write the script. I'm not the type of director who make individual movies. The scripts are given to me by the producers. Now, my job is to interpret this script, put it on the screen, make it exciting, involving, imaginative, and so on. Now I need a lot of talent to help me make these movies.
Yeah.
I cannot build set. A director cannot go and build sets. So you need art director, production designer. The director cannot be the actor. Even the best director, Charlie Chaplin, needed few more actors with him.
Yeah.
He cannot play all the parts. So now he relies on the talent of the cinematographer and the other actors who are working with Charlie Chaplin, as genius as he was. And so that's how I view it. I need talented people around me, and to draw and to kind of coordinate all those talents together and cook it together in a pot that my vision, my story, my storytelling will be produced and manifested on the screen later on the screen. So I believe in it, and that's how I believe movie making is. It's a collaboration of group of talented people creators who together create something which is a story eventually.
Yeah. And you've worked with
an involving story of a new fantasy, of a new reality.
Yeah, and you've worked with the same collaborators a lot, so there must be a mutual feeling there with the people that you've worked with, that they also subscribe to that. Do you have I know we've gone long. Do you have just a little more time, Sam? There's a couple more films I'd be really fascinated to just quickly ask you about, if you'd be interested.
Go ahead.
I feel like we could talk a whole other hour about your stuff with David Bradley, but because the David Bradley section of your career is probably a whole different thing. But you did two other films with Steve James and Michael Dudikoff. The one you did with Steve James was Riverbend, which I confess I haven't seen. I need to find it and see it. But from what I've read about it, seems to have slightly more. Yes, it plays within the action genre, but it has slightly more serious themes in it and so on. Was that something you and Steve built together, or was that something Steve wanted to do and he came to you? How did that movie come about?
No, it was really coincident, really coincident. After we finished, we did Avenging Force, Ninja 3, American Ninja number 2. And one day I got a call either through my agent, I had an agent or something, and I was presented with a script. This script, Riverbend, Night Hunter, at the time was called Night Hunter. And I read the script, and this is a racially charged story that happened in the South in the 60s. Tension between white and blacks, racial tension between white and blacks in the South in the 60s. And I really liked the script, and I was introduced to the producers. And this was a privately financed movie, not a company, not a film company. It was totally privately financed movie by some financier from Texas. And they wrote the script. When I got the script, it was completed. It was a big script, Usually scripts are 120 pages, usually, standard for 90 minutes. This was like 200 pages script, big script. I like the subject very much. And they approached me because they wanted Steve James. So
Oh,
they
I see.
figured
Okay.
out through
Yeah.
me they will get to Steve James. That's how it happened.
Yeah.
Maybe they approached other black actors, name actors, which I don't know, but they wanted Steve James. So that's how it felt. It came to me. I liked the script very much, and I talked with script. I was very friendly with Steve, and I spoke with Steve about it. Steve, Steve was very disappointed. Not disappointed. He really didn't like Avenging Force because he dies in the movie.
Okay.
His character dies.
Yeah.
He always hunted me about it. He always told me, Sam, you made me die in the movie, and I didn't want to die. And that's not what I want to my career in Hollywood. Anyway, we made American Ninja #2 later after that. And suddenly, so this was for me the redemption. I told him, Steve, I have for you a script. it will. I will be redeemed for killing you in your character in one of the. And that's how it got together. So he read the script, he agreed, and the condition of the investor was that we'll shoot it in Texas to make it look like Alabama, but in Texas. That's how we came upon the script. That's how Steve and me, and we started. The script was finished. I worked a little bit with the writer. Same van. And eventually we went all down to Texas. We were very few people from Hollywood, only Steve James, myself, and assistant director was David Womack. And I think everybody else was from Texas, the Texas crew, the cinematographers, I had the editor, Marcus Menton. That's all. All the others, everybody was local from Texas. Good crew, good people. They have good industry in Dallas, outside Dallas, and we just did this whole movie. We shot it all over there in Texas. The sad part, the tragedy of this production is that the blessing was that it was privately financed, and this was also the curse, because when the movie was finished, the guy was a businessman, the investor was a businessman. And when the movie was finished, he had this notion that he's a businessman and he will distribute the movie by himself. He doesn't need anyone. He doesn't need a big studio. And he was very leery. He was very afraid of the Hollywood establishment because he came from Texas, that they will not share with him the profit. It's true, usually. Usually Hollywood doesn't share profit, but doesn't matter. So he believed that he can do it himself.
Yeah.
And that's how the movie kind of disappeared. He made a deal with some small company that since then disappeared, Prism Film. The company disappeared. And this is the reason why we don't even know where the negative is. Maybe he helped to the negative. And somehow he started to disconnect from all of us, from the writer, from myself, and he ceased the contact with us after the movie was finished, after we finished the editing. And I don't know, we don't know today and now eventually this company Prism kind of got the interest of either Paramount or Warner Brothers, big studio, and they bought it for distribution, but they bought it actually to bury it, because at the time they had Mississippi Burning, which is kind of similar subject.
Right.
Mississippi Burning, which is of course with a big star, much bigger movie, and Avenging Force not Avenging Force, Riverbend are kind of similar. And they actually bought the movie to bury it, to not distribute it, to make sure it does not compete with the Mississippi Burning. I don't think it would have competed with it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's how the movie, and it came out on VHS, limited edition. I have a copy of VHS, never came up on CDs, never played theatrical, because I told you the studio took it in order to make sure that it will never be distributed. And the subject is provocative because it's a racial charged movie, but in a reverse, where the black population are taking over the white population of a small town in the South, and they rebel against the.
Yeah, it would be a great film to revisit, I think, or try and find.
Right. So
I haven't seen it, but
just lately I was able to make a digital copy of it. Just lately. And if we discover that maybe the producer had already died and nobody knows where the negative is. So maybe I will upload it just like this, but I don't think anyone will be mad, and rather many fans of Steve James will be happy.
Yeah, because any chance to see Steve James doing a leading role would be good.
And his leading role, and it's a positive. He really liked it. It's a positive. It's a role model. 3 soldiers coming back from Vietnam. All of them are officers, and they resolve the situation, the discrimination situation in this little town in the 60s. They come back from Vietnam as soldiers, and of course it's with an action genre.
And the other film quickly was that you reunited with Michael Dudikoff in 2002's Quicksand. What did that reunion kind of mean to the both of you at the time?
Many of you know that after Michael finished his relationship with Canon, he made a lot of low-budget action movie for other companies, not for Canon. And then I had this opportunity together with my friend, the producer Frank DeMartini, to make a movie which was called Quicksand in India. The money came from India. So it was a movie that we were supposed to make in India, but an American movie, not a movie that will look like an Indian movie, but will look like an American movie shot in India. That's what the investor wanted, the company wanted. And because of my relationship with Michael, and by then he already finished all the other movies with the other companies, we approached him with this script. It's not really an action movie, thriller. It's kind of a thriller.
Yeah.
And he took the part, I took the directing, and we flew to India, and the movie was produced in Hyderabad, India, but it looks like Arizona. The setup is Arizona. The desert around Hyderabad really looks like the desert in Arizona.
Yeah.
So everything is built, all the sets, everything is built. We didn't have to be busy. We were not busy with action in this particular movie, but it was a fantastic reunion. As I said, Michael was busy for many years. I was busy for many years with other movies. And here we were together again. I told you, we are friends. Michael and me, we are friends. We don't live too far from each other. We are in contact here and there. We're in contact. And so we were happy to be back together over there in the studio in Hyderabad and work again together. And he was happy. It was not an action movie. It was kind of a thriller. So it was nice. The only strange circumstances were that we are in India. We're working in India. We're in India with an Indian crew, which Indian crew has a completely different set of standards of making movies than we are used to. So this was the only difference. But other than that, it was nice. We enjoyed it and we had a good time. And I'm still in contact with Michael here and there. He's busy raising 2 children. He has 2 children.
Yeah. No, I follow him on Facebook, so I see what he's up to sometimes. So to wrap it up, then the last couple of quick questions is, first of all, of the early films that you made that have succeeded and lasted. Do you have any particular favorites out of the ones that we've talked about for any either personal or artistic reasons? And the second part of the thing is there any chance we'll see another Sam Firstenberg movie in the future, or have you hung up your director's hat for good?
Regarding another picture in the future, I doubt it. I'll tell you what. Why? Because this type of movies that I made, that I was in Hollywood, kind of everybody's cast into actors and directors are cast into certain type of movies. So the type of movies I made, low budget movies, action movies, they disappeared from the map, disappeared from the universe of movie making. So today's action movie are either mega big action movies, with over 150 million budget, or very small so-called action movies, $1 million budget, which is nothing. shooting in 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So what we made, the medium budget movies, which we were shooting 9 weeks, 2 units, which were pretty lavish, not as big as a studio, major studio, they disappeared. So therefore, there is no field for me to play as a director in this type of movie. I'm approached to do this little action, and I never made it into the major league, into the major studio movies. I never made it. So if I'm approached to do a small little action movie, shooting in 5 weeks, I'm not interested. It will not be an action movie. I don't want to do it. So if something happened with me directing, it probably will be a non-action movie. Maybe personal, maybe some love story. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Some kind of a relationship movies, which is not an action movie. So that might happen, but it's anyway. Movies are very hard work and it takes a lot of time. It takes almost a year to make a movie. So maybe I don't see it coming. To relate to your other question, among all the action movies that I directed, I believe my feeling is that Avenging Force is the best movie. I just saw it again in a screening. I was in a festival in Slovenia. They played it in a big screen, huge screen in town square. The movie still works. The action is, again, Michael Dudikoff, Steve James, and of course, John P. Ryan and Jim Booth. Some great actors, great acting, very tight story. The plot is really tight and works very, very well. And the action is spectacular. Really, there is this 15 minutes action sequence at the end in the rain, in the bayous of north of New Orleans in Louisiana, which is fantastic. And there is a Mardi Gras action sequence. So I believe that among the action movies, this is the best. I cannot ignore American Ninja, which is the most popular of all the movies. Out of 25 movies, I will be remembered as the director of American Ninja, no question about it.
It's not a bad legacy, Sam.
This is it. Not bad.
Not a bad legacy.
Because 35 years later, it's still playing in every festival. Next week, I'm going to another festival that they will play this movie. So I cannot ignore, and I love it. It's a nice, innocent. I like the element of the love story, really. The element of the love story in American Ninja between Michael and Judy. And I love the friendship element between Steve and Michael very much. So it's actually an innocent story enveloped with action surrounding it. And the action is very good. It's pretty good. And
it's great.
Tadashi and other element in the movie that I really like. But I love breakdance. I love Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
It's a dance movie. It's a non-violent. It's all positive. Every element of the movie is about positive, fighting City Hall, winning the fight. And I just read an interview with Shabadu, and he says, when I led, there is a scene that he's leading a march to City Hall. And he says, when I led the march to City Hall, I felt like Martin Luther King. Wow.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, when you look back on them now, I mean, I know that, again, people kind of either laugh at them or watch them because they're campy or whatever, which is not what I do. I genuinely like the films. But the film is, for its time, it's diverse, it's open, it's, like you said, it's the little guy against the big guy. It's everything that they tell us.
I know it's a simplistic story. There is no sophistication, no characters, and it's not too sophisticated. But still, there is a secondary story.
No, definitely.
Two romantic love stories, friendship, fighting City Hall. There is
it's
enough.
all, but it's all this stuff that they say nowadays, where everyone is sort of talking about diversity in film. They say that movies like this were never made before now, and you go, well, actually they were, and they were made for decades. And Breakin' 2 is a perfect example of that. It's a wonderful movie where it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, who you choose to love, whatever it is. you can be part of this gang that is going to win the day and be united and dance and be happy.
Gentrification, a very hot subject today.
Gentrification, yeah, it's another thing. So it's a wonderful movie, and I'm a big fan of that as well. And like I say, I don't watch any of films ironically. I don't really understand that these days that people watch stuff I genuinely love the film, Sam, and it's been a real pleasure to talk to you today. And
same here.
And like I say, we could do a whole other part 2 on your David Bradley action films.
We can do it when I come back. I'm going to Belgrade to a film festival, some kind of a fantasy film festival.
Lovely. I think I'll always be very grateful that you gave us the training sequence in American Ninja with all the different colored ninja outfits, which I think is fantastic.
We called it the Ninja School.
The Ninja School, yeah, the train, because it's like a sequence out of, the 30 seconds in James Bond movies where Q has the guy with the gadget and he blows something up and then they carry on and it's 30 seconds. It's like that, but it's 10 minutes long. It's brilliant. I love it. With all the different ninja outfits and the colors and everything like that. It's a favorite sequence. So thank you for that, Sam, and thank you for talking with the After Movie Diner today.
Okay, so long. Bye.
Take care, sir. Bye now.